Welcome to Sharon is Coach LLC. If it don't apply, let it fly YouTube channel. Sharon is courageous, optimistic, authentic, compassionate, and humble. She is me. I am Sharon coming to you live from Richmond, Virginia. Now, as always, I want to thank you guys for your love and your support and for checking up on me and following me on YouTube and Facebook. My following is growing, so I thank you for that. It does my heart good to let me know that I am making a difference and my words are reaching those that need it. I come today with somewhat of a heavy heart. A couple of days ago, or a few days ago rather, there was an incident at a local elementary school where a 6-year-old shot his teacher. And while we'd like to, and I'm going to just jump right in, so forgive me, but it's something that I've been giving a lot of thought to, and it's something that I have to get off my chest. You guys know me by now if you've been following me and looked at any of my videos. As a domestic violence survivor, my YouTube channel is also a place of healing for me. It's a form of therapy for me to discuss things that may be weighing me down, and for me to be able to help others that may find themselves in the same situation I found myself in, or just solely to make sure that we are addressing issues that happen within our communities that typically don't get the attention that they need. I'm a firm believer in knowledge is power. So the more we know about ourselves and the more we know about what's going on around us in our communities and our governments, as well as in our households, the more powerful we are and the more we're able to enact effective change. Okay, so that's why I'm sharing this. But the situation with the 6-year-old shooting the teacher weighs heavily on me. Give me a second, because it hits to it's personal for me, because I know a lot of people are going to be hollering about it's the guns. We need to remove the guns. And before I say anything, I'm not an NSA supporter whatsoever. I don't feel we need automatic weapons and machine guns to protect our home or to protect our peace. But I do feel your right to bear arms should not be one that is infringed upon. Okay, so that brings me to my next point. People are saying, how did the 6-year-old get his hands on a gun? And this is the point I want to make. It's not a gun issue. It's a parent issue. It's an adult issue. Especially at the age of 6 years old. That type of behavior, reaction, it is something that is learned and taught. Children at that age mimic what they see, what they hear, what they feel. They take that and utilize it within their day-to-day activities. And you can see the type of parental influence that is on a child by their actions, their attitudes, and their behaviors, okay? And I'm not saying all children, because we do have some wayward children that no matter what was instilled in them, they tend to do their own thing based on outside exposures to certain situations and certain things. We know media, we know music, we know videos, we know TikTok, we know YouTube. All of that is a window into an adult world for a child. So if your children are of a young age and they have access to that, let's be clear, it's not all parents or neglectful actions on a parent's part that lead our children down this road. But as parents and parental figures, we are the first example that they learn from. They, in the beginning stages of life, spend more time with us than they do with anyone else. So they listen to us, they hear us, they're watching us, they are picking up on everything that we do. Okay, and the reason why I say this is very personal for me, it's because it's several different things. One, I have witnessed firsthand accounts, and before I say anything else, I'm old school. Not to say that children are seen and not heard, because I don't believe in that. I believe in treating children like the little people that they are, and that's how you talk to them. But I do believe in, as adults, we need to be guarded with our behavior. You don't have to sacrifice your life and your enjoyment because you're a parent. You just need to be more selective about what you allow your child to be a party too. So if you're in a household that use firearms, I would always encourage you to take the proper precautions. Teach gun safety. Make sure you have your firearm locked up and away in a manner in which a child can't get their hands on. So that's one. Because if a 6-year-old has access to a gun, naturally we're going to question how or why. Okay. And then two, be mindful. Like, I have a lot of people that think it's okay to smoke marijuana and to drink in front of their children. And those are normal day-to-day activities for a lot of households. However, I am that parent where no matter what they may be doing, even at an adult age, they will not do it in my presence and they will not see me do it. My mother used to tell me this thing when I was coming up, when she's correcting and she's laying down the law of the land. She would always tell me, you do as I say do, not as you see me do. That may very well have been an okay parental law or advice for my generation. Okay, I'm a 70s baby. That may have worked for 70s kids because we were raised in a different way. There was a totally different set of expectations for us in that day and time. So that may very well have been acceptable. And it did work for me. There's a lot of things that even as an adult, I do only in the comfort of my own home, simply because it's not meant for everyone to see. And that's how I was raised. So that same principle, I think we need to tweak it a bit, because again, our children are being exposed to a lot more than older generations were. We didn't have access to the internet. We didn't have access to the secular music to the extent that we do now, where if we don't listen to it in our homes, they have cell phones that they have access to it. They have friends that may be having access to it and they share that information. Okay. And I'll admit, I was that parent. I didn't know my kids knew rap music or what it sounded like, because when they were young in age, all I listened to was gospel, maybe some R&B or slow jams, but never any Lil Boosie or anything like that. And to hear them rap a clear song with all the words, I'm like, where you get that from? Mom, we got a radio. Where you get radio from? You know, it's a lot of things to that. Just know that there are other influences that I am aware that your children have access to. But again, none of that matters if the foundation that's being laid at home is solid and it's consistent. It's set a set of expectations followed with or followed through by consequences for actions that's not good or becoming of a child of that age. So that's one. Two, parents, I don't care what the outside world does. Again, I can't stress this enough. You're the first example. So if you don't want your kids out here drinking and smoking in the street, then don't drink and smoke in front of them. You see what I'm saying? Take the time to explain to them the why nots and the how comes when you're giving direction to them. Just don't tell them they can't do something because they're not grown or it's not the legal age. Explain to them the consequences of what may happen. In that particular area, once I hit the number 18, my mom was very matter of fact. It still wasn't something that was acceptable in her eyes for me to participate in certain activities. However, she did explain to me why or what the consequences of that particular action of activity was. So the consensus in my home was, once you reach an adult age, if that's something that you wanted to do, the expectation was you do it in private. You don't do it out there in the street, because that's when you open yourself up to other issues and other problems. So that's one. Want to make sure that we are taking the time to explain to our children consequences of actions. Two, because their eyes are on us, and this is where it really hits home to me, because your children are watching and listening to you, it is very, very important that you're setting that great example. I was married before. I have 2 children. They are now of an adult age and near adult age. However, my divorce was nasty, and I mean nasty. Their father was very volatile to the point where my children couldn't mention my name in their household. His anger and his hatred towards me spilled over into my children. Rather than explaining to them that the situation between the adults, he and I, had nothing to do with them, and encouraging them to both have the proper relationship with both parents, he took the low road, and that's fine. I still, no matter what happened, took the high road. And it's painful for me because the 2 little children that started out in that process have long since disappeared. They are now older children with their, because of what was shown to them, what was told to them, the falsehoods that they were forced to believe as truths has damaged them. It has damaged them, and it has damaged our relationship. Why am I being so open about that particular aspect? It's simple. It's because that same negativity that my children watched and heard that altered their relationship with me is the same negativity that that 6-year-old may have been exposed to drive him to want to take a gun to school to resolve a dispute with an adult, with his teacher. For what I recently read, this was a dispute between a child and an adult, and the child, 6 years old, took a gun to school and shot his teacher. They didn't give a lot of details surrounding the dispute itself, and it really shouldn't even matter what the dispute was about, because at 6 years old, the thought should never be, I'm going to kill you. The thought should never be, I'm going to kill you. The thought should never be, I'm going to take this gun to school and I'm going to shoot my teacher. The thought at 6 years old should be, one, this is an adult, so if they're giving me direction, I should take it. Hello, parents. To all those parents out there telling their kids, they ain't your mama, they ain't your daddy, don't say nothing to my kids. This could be a consequence of that action. Children who are being led to believe that they don't have to accept the direction of another adult. I know in some cases you may say, well, you ain't got to listen to your mama, or you ain't got to listen to that teacher. Once you tell them one time that they don't have to listen to an adult that plays a key role in their lives, from a parent to a teacher, someone that they see day in and day out, and it is their job, their duty, and their responsibility to give them that direction. Once you give them the license to disregard that, you're giving them the license to disregard anybody else that stands in a position of authority, and it will show. It will show. I'm speaking from personal experience. I have a 20-year-old, and once he was told he didn't have to respect me, anybody else that came behind me, if he didn't like what was being said or he didn't like what was being done, he didn't have to. He didn't have to do that. So that was a direct consequence of his father's actions, okay? Now, how do we fix that? How do we fix that? It is not going to be an overnight process, but it is one in which we can enact today and every day going forward. You have young children at home. If your children are being exposed to any type of violence through video games, through what you watch on TV, I have younger children now, and no, I don't want them listening to some of these TV shows where we can classify as secular, and it saddens my heart that it's an actual cartoon, but they can be on there talking about very adult things, using very adult language. That's where your parental duties are very, very important, with guarding and guiding what your children are being exposed to. Okay, when, as a parent, I know it is easy because I'm a mom first and always have been. It's easy to get caught up in our day-to-day activities, and we just want to steal those few moments of peace that TV show might grant us, and we just click it on. I wasn't a TV mom. My kids had to earn TV time. My kids had to earn game time, screen time. They couldn't just come in and plop down and turn on the TV. No sir, no ma'am. Can I get some reading time? How many books have you read? How many chapters have you read? How many pages have you read? And then if you're telling me that you read it, I need you to be able to tell me what you learned from what you read. Okay? And then best bet too, and they can attest to this, they would still have to sit and read to me to make sure that they're getting what they need from what they just learned. And you have to learn, and I'm saying this to all those, I ain't got time for that. I work. Ain't nobody else here but me. It's just not possible. And I will let you know that my mom moved in with us. So my children were in elementary school ages. Even though their father and I worked outside of the home, I had that old school hand love in my house. So when me and their father were absent, my mom brought up the rear, and she stuck to, as much as you would expect that grandma would, she stuck to the established plan, which was when they come home from school, they had an opportunity to choose. I believe in giving choices. That's how you get their buy-in. That's how you get them on board with what the expectation is. I've never been that mom to say you're going to do what I say do because I say do it. Granted, there are some times when that is required, but that's not my MO as a parent. My MO as a parent is give them a voice. Teach them to exercise and use that voice appropriately. So when there is an issue of conflict, they're better equipped to talk through that. They're better equipped to express themselves. My daughter is a prime example of that. At 3.5, 4 years old, she could tell you no why she didn't want to do something, and she was prepared to stand on that no, even with me as her mom. And it takes a village. It took me to go up the ladder. My mom is in the house with us. She's having the same, like, I feel this is disrespectful. How dare she tell me she don't want to do something? I call my grandma. Wisdom. You always find that wise one. And it was her, my grandmother, who helped me to understand my daughter is truly a child of a different era. She's been here before. So she wasn't being disrespectful. She was just able to articulate her feelings and her thoughts on a different level, and in a way in which someone from my generation, again, seen and not heard generation, would find it be disrespectful, because we weren't allowed to have an opinion. We weren't allowed to say no. So that's where evolution and evolving comes around. I'm one of the parents today where I feel like you parent your child according to their personality. She's not a disrespectful, sassy child. She was just a smart child. She was just an articulate child. She was just a vocal child. Whereas to my son, he was the quiet, mild-mannered one when he was younger. He would like to be to himself. He would play by himself on the floor for hours. You go in there, check on him, the baby probably be done fell asleep, toys in hand, and he never uttered a peep. You would never know he was in the house if you didn't go look for him, if you didn't know that he was already in there. But the girl, on the other hand, my baby, she ran the household. She let you know she was there. She let you know she needed and she wanted, and she demanded your attention if that's what she wanted in that moment. So how you parent your child, it depends on their personality. So if you know you have a child that picks up on everything quickly, then you should know to guard your behavior, guard your words, guard everything that you do, because they're sponges. They are soaking that all up. And for those of us who feel like you'd rather for them to get it from you than from anywhere else, that's fine. You're their first teacher. Just be mindful of what lessons are being taught. So if you're that parent that sits around the house with a Glock 9 on the table and you about it, you're ready for war at all times, just know your child is watching you. Your child is also picking up that about it, ready for war attitude. And that's not something that we want our children to necessarily have at 6 years old. When did we get away from focusing on conflict resolution? What does that look like? Conflict resolution is saying, you have a problem with me, or I have a problem with you. How can we get past this? It's finding a suitable solution for all that does not involve violence. Why is it that a 6-year-old would think the first thing that they could do to address the situation, because we can't even say defend themselves, because we don't even know what it was. And truth be told, if you're in a school setting, you're 6 and the teacher is an adult, that goes all the way over my head. I have no clear understanding of how that could even be possible. But that's all the more reason why we need to be vigilant. That's all more the reason why we need to get back to that old school way of rearing our children, where we are, I hate to say it, but we're policing their activities. What are you looking at on TV? What type of music are you listening to? And it's not to say that they can't express their own individuality, but you want to make sure that whatever is feeding them is of a positive nature, because any and everything that they have access to, it's imprinting on them. It's planting a seed in them. It is exposing them to what may be perceived as acceptable behavior, even when we know it's not. We know the stuff that they hear on the rap songs in regards to sex, in regards to domestic violence, in regards to gun violence. That is not acceptable in the real world. It is not. So why are you letting them listen to that at that age? And another thing for parents with older children, I'm not sure what types of relationships you have. My kids told me that I was a smothering mother. They felt like I was too much in their business, and that's fine. I'd rather be in your business and know what's going on with you and keep you safe, or help you to identify a solution to a problem that you might have going on, because that's my role as your mom. I would tell my children, kids can, especially when they get in their teenage years, they tend to be secretive. My thing to my children have always been, if I don't know about the problem, I can't help you solve it. If I don't know what's wrong, I can't help you fix it. So, in turn, what I learned through my son was listen to the music that they're listening to. That bridged a major gap between me and my young man, my young prince, because through music, he was able to communicate with me what he couldn't with words, because for whatever reason, some young men, they just don't like to talk, or they feel like it's too mushy. It just depends on, what type of environment they're brought up in, who are their core people in their lives. And this is for my king brothers out there. Stop telling our princes that they're wrong for needing or wanting a mother's love. Stop telling them that they're punks or they're sissies because they cry or they need to talk something through. Don't do that. See, when you start doing stuff like that, you get 6-year-olds toting guns to a school instead of crying to their mama when something is wrong. And there's some queens out there too that do that. Stop putting our princes in the role of king before their time. It's not their job to be your little man. It's not their job to be your protector. You should always be in protect mode when it comes to them. So when you start creating those type of dynamics in your household, know everything that you do at home, it extends out beyond that. I had to teach my children at an early age due to divorce, certain things, like all of mommy friends are not meant to be your friends. So you don't need to be interacting with any and everybody that you may think or know of me interacting. And they didn't know a whole lot. They had a few key people that I would interact with that they would be involved with. Outside of that, no. It's because it's adult time, and everything that they do, I may not want my children a party to. Everything that they say, I may not want my children to hear, because I believe in children being children, and that starts with us. Every time I go on Facebook and I see a little 3, 4, 5-year-old with a cut off top with her hands on her hip and her toe tipped out, it burns me like fire. It burns me like fire because she's 3. What happened to wearing dresses with ruffles or petticoats up under them? I know when I was a little girl, my father would have a whole heart attack if he saw me in some jeans or some shorts. And I know that's old school. We evolved from that. I'm not telling you that we need to rewind back to 30s and 40s, but some of those 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, and 70s principles, it's what's going to be required in order to turn this new age generation around and save them from themselves. And it's never too late to start. It's never too late to start. Have those conversations. Explain to our young ladies, even at 4, 5, and 6, because I remember shopping for my daughter, and that was 17 years ago. 2, 3, 4 years old. And I'm like, do they make children's clothes anymore? Why is everything short? Why is everything low cut? Why is everything, off the shoulder? Why is a 5-year-old wearing an off the shoulder anything? Why are we not teaching them that their body is a vessel and it's their one jewel, it to be treasured and honored? And you tell the young men that too, because we need to start preaching and teaching to them self-value. Because if they don't have value in themselves, they're not going to see value in anyone else. If they don't feel that they themselves are important and lovable and worthy, then they're not going to see that or display that type of attitude to anyone else on the outside world. And that's what's missing. We've gravitated from a place where we're teaching our children compassion, forgiveness, and understanding, and true acceptance. We cannot agree, or we can disagree and still accept someone. one of the most beautiful treasures I've recently come about is having the ability to verbally communicate. And when I say communicate, I mean communicate, to conversate, to have a conversation, to be able to talk through fully a thought, a process, or a feeling, and have it be received even when we are not in agreement. The conversation, and I mentioned this before, the conversation typically ends like, okay, I hear you, I understand your point, I still just don't agree with it, and we're okay, right? And that's how it should be. Conflict resolution with a 6-year-old. You got that big of an issue with your teacher that you want to bring a gun in and you want to shoot someone? It weighs that heavy on you at 6 years old. Here I am at 40, bleep bleep. That's right. Here I am at 40 plus years old. And I know I have my moments where I just want to blank out and act a whole holy fool, and I know some people would say I would be justified in doing so. But the God in me that knows I'm worthy of so much more than to let someone allow me or force me to stoop to their level and put myself in a situation where I'm facing jail time, where I'm being truly ostracized, or being reactive. That I can't do. And those are the lessons that we need to teach our children. We need to let our children know that certain things we just can't take back. We just can't, and to the parents out there, the firearm owners, and yes, I'm a firearm owner, and my children knew that. My children saw my firearm one time, and that was to explain to them what it was, to let them see it. I let them touch it, and I also made it very perfectly clear that if for whatever reason they came across it, they should not put their hands on it. They knew the consequences of it. That was the first and the last time they were able to see and touch my firearm. Why did I want them to know that it was in the house? Again, so if they should run across it, they knew it was not a toy. That's what we're missing. It's not to say you can't have a firearm in your house. It's not to say you can't protect yourself. It's not to say you can't protect your home and your family. It's just to say be more responsible with that if that's a choice that you've made for your household. Again, I am a firearm owner. My children was of a young age when I purchased my first firearm. Not that that was the first time that they were exposed to it, because we come from a hunting, fishing, out in the woods type family. So they had seen and heard about firearms, rifles, and shotguns and things like that. But it was in a controlled setting. You see what I'm saying? That was a one and done. Now, when you're talking about bringing something into the home, which it's permanent, yes, you do need to expose them to that. You do need to have that conversation and to make sure that they are aware of how serious that was. And thankfully enough, when my son was of age, he went on his first hunting trip, and they shot a deer. He got his first deer, and it was traumatizing to him and I was grateful for that, because it's not something he wanted to do. After that, he didn't want to deal with guns no more, because he felt like he had killed Bambi or Bambi's mother. And for me as a mom who really at that time wasn't ready to expose them to that, because for me that was a violent situation. It was. You're taking a child and you're letting them witness the death of another being. Yes, it's an animal, but it's still a being. Don't get me wrong. I believe in the life cycle, the circle of life. I really do. So I know we have to kill animals, or we hunt animals for food, and I'm all for that. I'm a old school country girl, grew up on a little farm, pigs and chickens and things like that, deer hunting and fishing. So I know all about it. So yes, I'm a circle of life kind of girl. So you do what you got to do to feed and provide for your family. But at the same time, that's for sport. That's for necessity. That's not the same as you leaving your gun sitting on the table and your kids sitting around listening to you about going around the block and taking somebody's head off, or them listening to something on the radio or on the TV talking about going and taking somebody out. It's not the same. But you can introduce firearms to your children or to your families in a controlled and responsible manner. And I think that's what we miss. For all of those anti-gun people, I get it. Trust me, I get it. I understand. I personally, firsthand, seen with my own two eyes, felt with my own two hands, the damage and the devastation that irresponsible use of a firearm can cause. So I get it. But again, it's not what you do, It's how you do it. If you're going to own a firearm, are you going to be responsible? Are you going to take the time and educate your kids about gun safety? Are you educated about gun safety? Just because you go out here and buy a gun, that don't mean you know what you're doing with it. Everybody can pull a trigger and load a magazine, but do you know how to care for, clean, and put away your firearm? So these are the questions that I want us to start asking ourselves before we start hollering about ban all guns. No, we have a right to protect ourselves. I'm a First Amendment girl. Come on now. You can't... First or Fifth Amendment, excuse me. You can't take our right to protect ourselves altogether, but we can enforce and implement more responsible controls in place. So that was my first piece, okay? Life will expose us to so many different things. And sad to say, as of late, again, domestic violence is on the rise. We know it's that time of year, holiday time, stress time. We want to be able to feel safe in our own homes. And it's sad to say that. So what, now teachers have to fear their students if they aren't in agreement with the direction that they receive? Is that what we're saying now? And again, because there's very limited detail surrounding the situation with the 6-year-old in the firearm, I'm not in a position to speculate, nor do I want to, but it is worthy of us lifting up all that are involved in prayer and giving it some thought. Any and everything that I speak to on my channel, it is of a personal nature to me. It is, because it has affected my life in some shape, form, or fashion. And if you haven't gotten anything else from C.O.A.C.H LLC, then I pray you get everything that I do. Is simply because life has taught me personally lessons that I feel each and every one of us can learn from in order to avoid making the same mistakes. Okay? And I can't even say it's mistakes, because I don't feel like it was a mistake. Everything in this world, everything in your cycle of life is meant to teach you something. It's meant to better you for the next season. It's meant to build you up. It's meant to make you stronger. Even the good, along with the bad, it's all meant to get you to that next season in life. So again, no losses, only lessons. Let this be a valuable lesson that you take away from C.O.A.C.H LLC today. Make sure that when we have firearms and children in the home, we're taking the time to properly educate and introduce them to a firearm. Again, I'm a firearm owner. My children knew the day that I bought it home, we had to set round table, sit down. This is what this is. This is what it looks like. This is what it feels like. This is not a toy. This is not a toy. And yes, we had the trigger lock on it. We put it in the safe. They didn't have access to it. They didn't even know where it was stored at once they were introduced to it. So these are the things that you can put in place that will protect your children and protect other people from this. Okay? Now, the second piece of this is for our children of an older age. Okay? And parents. Again, everything I speak from the heart, because it has affected me. I don't care what your situation is with the other parent. I don't care how hard it is. I don't care how hurt you were. You should never, ever, ever pit your children between you, your spouse, or your ex. A child should never have to be made to choose between their parents. Okay? Granted, lifestyles are different, parenting styles are different, and that's okay. I'm one of those parents that say, if you're with your dad, dad's word is law. Okay? Now, I'm also the type of parent that I believe in co-parenting. I believe in us having conversations, even when we're in separate households. I was denied the right to do that because of animosity, because of, we're going to leave it at animosity. I was disallowed the right to do that. Okay. But it's very important that we present a united front when it comes to our children. Your children have to feel safe and loved by their parents. Again, that's their foundation. You know, when you start pulling and tugging at the threads of that relationship, when you start planting those seeds of doubt, oh, your mama don't love you, she this and she that, oh, that she this. No. It's not the parent that you're hurting. It's the child that you're hurting, because now you've created a void in a child's life that should not be there. And then two, you're creating a void with an essential party. Okay, an essential party. A parent that has reared and raised their child from birth and then is ripped away from them at 10 and 8 years old, and then programmed to believe that their mother or father is somehow wrong because they no longer wanted to be a party to that relationship, that's detrimental to a child. You're making the child feel like it was because of them. You're making the child feel like because the parent didn't choose to stay in a marriage, then they didn't choose to be with you. That's not true. And I want you to be very cautious with that going forward. If you're in a situationship right now and you feel like you can't be amicable or get along with the other parent, find a neutral party. Find a neutral party. You don't have to see them. Find a neutral party. Let them do the handoff and the pickup, so the kids aren't even involved in that whatsoever. It was always a rule in my house, and it still is to this day, right or wrong, good or bad, my children are not allowed to disrespect their father in my presence. And I know he did wrong, and they can feel what they feel, and I explain that to them. You're feeling what you're feeling for a reason. I can't take that from you. But what I can say to you is, as your mother, you will not be allowed to sit here and verbally disrespect or abuse emotionally the person that helped created you. Because the word says, honor thy mother and thy father, so your days shall be long. Okay? So that's just something to make sure we're keeping in the mind's eye, because I know a lot of times, hurt people hurt people, and that's been my saving grace, because every time I wanted to react to some of the venom that was being spewed my way, I just remembered hurt people hurt people. I'm not hurt. I'm fine. I got a peace of mind. I've moved on with my life. It is what it is. My hope and my prayer is that my children will pick up on the goodness that they're exposed to versus the negativity that they're exposed to. Some will, some won't. But I'm going to tell you, that old school word, raise up a child in the way they were, in the way of the word, and they shall not depart. Even when you think they are not listening, trust me when I tell you, they carry you everywhere they go, good and bad. They carry you everywhere they go, good and bad. And all too often, we lose sight of that. We think that because we're angry in this moment, we can do or say whatever it is that we want to do and say. And this is a message to me, because I just had a conversation about how tempting it is for me to be reactive to the foolishness that I'm still being exposed to, that I'm still being forced to have to deal with. And I know how I used to be. But again, I refuse to allow the devil to take me back to a place that I prayed myself out of. And that is a darkness I don't want to revisit at all. And I refuse to. By any means necessary. I want to stay sane and I want to stay safe. That's what it is. And if I react to any of those situations, then I give up my right. I give up my rights to be sane and to be safe. I'm voluntarily handing myself over to the devil and his works if I react to that situation. So parents, if you're in a situation with the other parent, no matter how hurt you are, no matter what the circumstances and the situation is, please do your very best, if for no other reason than the fact that your children are watching and listening and feeling what you're giving off. Do your best to keep it copacetic. I ain't got to be your friend to raise a child with you. Hi, sir. How are you? They did ABCD in school. They got a game on Saturday. They misbehave in school, so they on restriction. And that's the type of parent I am. It's not always well received because some people are narcissistic and they just want to be in control and use every opportunity that they can to make sure they regain and hold on to that. But I'll tell you something. Be like me. Remove yourself. I ain't got to deal with it. And again, I got 2 kids. And when my kids were old enough to truly understand the consequences of their actions and the disrespectfulness came, they wanted to fight me. They don't want to listen to me. They think they can come and go out my house when they please. And they ain't even 18 yet. I can nip it in the bud. I nip it in the bud. To save my peace and keep me off the front page of the news for being old school, I brought you into this world and I take you out because I feel that disrespected and violated and my personal being and spaces being infringed upon, I'm going to let you go where you want to be. You can stay with your dad. My door is always open. I love you and I'm here for you. And these are for these parents that are sitting on the fence about what to do when you have an uncontrollable child. there are resources available for that. Because I do know there are some children that, for whatever the reasons may be, there isn't anything you can do with them or for them yourself. And I know, for as much as that hurts your heart, it's okay to let it go. It is. It's okay to have someone else come in from the outside and intervene. Because for me, and the whole purpose of me divorcing my children's father is I wanted my children to come up in an environment where they knew what love, warmth, compassion was. I didn't want my children seeing coldness, angry, arguing, and things like that. And they weren't exposed to that in our household. They weren't. Even down to the day we told them we were getting a divorce, which was in the presence of the pastor. The pastor and I came in our home. They were in their familiar environment, sat around the dining room table and say, hey guys, we have some big people talk. You know, we have to talk to you about some things. And that's how it was explained to them, with the neutral party, which is the pastor, and myself. Their father didn't want to participate in the activity, and that's his right. He didn't have to, but they were shocked because they had never even really heard us have an argument. They had never even really seen or witnessed any discord between us, aside from one isolated incident. And I'm not even going to put that out there, but that was in defense of something that was happening. So that wasn't even a situation where two people were being antagonistic towards each other. But my point being is two things. You want to make sure children are allowed to be children. But if I had to do anything different, I would not have shielded my children as much as I did. Their children should not be in the midst of disagreements or arguments with your father and their mother or any of that. But when something's off, it's okay to tell your kids we're going through a rough patch right now. It's okay to tell your kids that mommy and daddy is just not agreeing right now. Do not, and I say this again, do not give them that false sense of security in which they feel nothing can ever or nothing will ever go wrong, because life is just not set up that way. And again, if I had to do anything different, I would have had more candid and informational conversations with them versus, putting on that pasted smiley face and just keep on trucking through life. Yes, you keep on trucking through life, but it is also good for them to know that sometimes there is discord in life. Sometimes there is disagreement. Sometimes there will be silence in the home. That has nothing to do with you. That's adult information, not giving them any details. But if you see mommy and daddy pass by each other right quick, just know that mommy and daddy got some grown-up business they got to take care of. That does not include you. And then you still parent your children. You still let your children be children. And that's how I feel I could have done better as a parent in preparing them for when the ish hit the fan, so to speak, because they were blindsided. The same thing with gun controls in the home. If you educate your children about what you have, the firearm itself, if for whatever reason they came across it by accident, they'd already be armed with the knowledge and prepared about what to do. Is leave it the H alone and go get an adult so they can take care of it. It should never be an instance where they see it and now they're curious because you've never introduced it to them before. So now they want to know what it is. And most kids gonna go find somebody else in their age bracket to see if they know what it is. And that's how we get this whole children of a young age playing with, touching, and toting firearms. Okay, so that's why it's important to make sure you're arming your children with knowledge in all areas of life, including discords, arguments, and disagreements. A child that doesn't know that their parent doesn't always get along is a child that's going to be ignorant to a lot of things in this world. Okay, and that's simply because we all know as adults we're always going to come up against some form of adversity. We know we're always going to face some form of challenges as adults. So in order for us to lay that foundation so our children know how to deal with those difficult times, it's best that we start early. It's best that we use our words and explain things to them. It's no different than when you have two children that are not getting along. Don't just let them fight it out. intervene, give them direction, set the expectation. That's how you create peace for them and peace for you. Because if you intervene and set the expectation, then they already know how that interaction should play out. And it's okay for siblings to be at odds with each other. I'm a sibling. I got three. So I know we didn't always get along, but at the same time, it wasn't a situation where we just gonna be at each other until one of us tap out. No, that's not what it is. Somebody is gonna intervene. An adult, I'm not even gonna say somebody, an adult is gonna intervene and set the expectation. I do believe in letting them resolve certain situations on their own, but when you know a child is being intentionally antagonistic, that's when you need to step up. That's when you need to say something. Don't just let it fly. That's not a if it don't apply, let it fly situation. Their disagreement may not apply to you, but I don't need you to let that fly. I need you to swoop on in there and correct the situation and do what needs to be done to make sure they have a better understanding of how to resolve that conflict. And my thing is, I like to give children choices, and I'll tell you, if I see two kids that are at odds with each other, I need y'all to fix that. Y'all need to work it out. Y'all need to come to some type of an agreement. And if you can't, then I'm going to settle it for the both of you. And 9 times out of 10, ain't nobody going to be happy but me. That's how you handle that. And you do that sooner rather than later. Same thing with the 6-year-old that we don't know much about. For there to have been a conflict, I would assume that it would have been ongoing, because at least for a day, because he had to have left school, went home, and came back with a firearm. That's how my mind is playing this situation out. So we're giving him at least a day. So that means the day before something happened, and maybe he brought it back to school, and then something happened, But when you're teaching them the rules of engagement, so to speak, they'll be able to apply that not just at home with their siblings, but at school with their classmates. And I can tell you, everything is parenting my first kid, my oldest, it was trial and error. I was that, go tell somebody. I don't want you fighting at all. Go tell somebody. That's what adults are there for. Until one day on the playground, in the presence of an adult, I saw a little boy bullying my son. And my baby did everything that I taught him to do. He tried to resolve it. He even tried to share with the little boy. He even wound up giving him all his stuff with the little boy, just so they could play peacefully. But the other little boy's father stood by and watched this little boy hit my child. This little boy be just as ugly to my child as he wanted to be. And y'all, parenting changed me. Becoming a mother changed me so much. Because when I tell you I can go from 0 to a gazillion in negative 2.3 seconds, I mean what I say. In that moment, I did approach the dad, because it was just me that day. And that's another reason why we need both parents present with our children, because people take advantage of the fact that there's only one parent present. That was a situation where I approached the dad and I said, hey, look, I'm sure I see you seeing what I'm seeing. Can you address this? You see what I'm saying? Gave him the opportunity to correct his child, told the kids to go back and play. But the next time, my son went back and was told, defend yourself. I had to implement the secret bubble. Once they invade your personal space to a certain extent, you got every right to defend yourself. So ain't no more sitting there taking that, and I ain't gonna tell nobody to sit there and take it. And that's gonna bring me to the last 15 minutes of our talk today. That's with the domestic violence piece. Let me tell y'all something. Just like I told my son that day, hindsight is always the best teacher. I'm old school. Yes, I was raised by the word. Yes, I truly believe marriage is forever. Yes, I do believe in for better or worse, sickness and health, richer and poor, to death do us part. I believe in all of that. But as with anything, there's always an exception. So ladies and gentlemen, please, 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 please do not feel that you have to stay in these volatile relationships just because you made a vow. Please, please, please do not feel you have to stay with someone that is violating you day in and day out, whether it be mentally, physically, emotionally, sexually, financially, no matter what it is. I endured to the point where I almost lost my life. And I will be the first one to tell you, I always doubted the fact that I was being abused. Okay? And this is what I'm going to tell you. Don't wait till they start punching on you and choking you out for you to realize that it's time to go. There's always red flags and warning signs. Always. Always. The first time that man grabbed me up in my collar should have been the last time. But I stayed because I told myself that ain't abuse. He ain't hit me. That's a violation of your person. That's a grown man 3.5 times bigger than you all ladies. Gentlemen, that's a woman. Don't make no difference what size she is, violating your person by putting her hands on you. That's a problem. That's an issue. Don't wait until things get so bad there's no coming back from it before you try to do something about it. Okay? And yes, that is exactly why I'm fighting so hard against Henrico County PD, Henrico County District Court, Henrico County Victim Witness, the Safe Harbor, Hanover Safe Place. These are all domestic violence people that I came in contact with during my season of crises. And I, unlike so many others, made the conscious choice and decision that day was the last day that he would have access to me to do what he did to me. Okay? And I take full responsibility because, again, there were several other red flags and at least 2 major blow up moments in which I should have got my happy butt up out there. But that in sickness and health, till death do you part, better or worse, no, we're not doing that. We're not doing that, because I'm here to tell you, those type of people don't change. They get more skillful at camouflaging who they really are. They get more skillful at minimizing their actions and justifying their behavior, but they don't change. And a known batterer told me, a known batterer, one that it is no secret what they do and who they are, looked me in my face and told me, baby girl, please don't go back. Don't go back. Anytime a person that has committed the same offense that has been committed against you can tell you there's no changing in that situation, please believe me when I say there's no changing in that situation. And I can honestly and wholeheartedly sit here before you and put this on my children. In marriage, because I am a firm believer in what the word says, in marriage, I gave all that I got. If nothing else, I was loyal to a fault to my family in both instances. And whatever happens after that is whatever happens after that. But never allow yourself to be beat, disrespected, degraded, belittled, any of that for the sake of a vow. What gave me my second win as I laid in the hospital bed after trying to take my own life? The chaplain came in and she sat with me, and that thing weighed heavy on me. I'm just like, one, I didn't want to have 2 failed marriages, but then I realized there's no losses, only lessons, because I'm an amazing woman and will be an amazing wife again. I know I will be, because that's just who I am. And there's nothing wrong with that. Ladies, if you're out there listening, don't let nobody tell you your dreams of being a wife and a mother is something that shouldn't be magnified or, promoted. I know who I am, and I let so many people tell me that you just, nah, I know who I am, and I know what gives me peace. I know what gives me joy. I know what makes me full from the inside out. Yes, I'm also a professional. I was blessed to have the best of both worlds. I was able to figure out who I was as an individual and create a career, and then also manage and run a household and a family and support a husband. I know what that is, but never should that be never should that cost you your life, your safety, your sanity, or your peace. Love is not supposed to hurt. Love is not supposed to hurt. If a man or a woman can look you in your face and say anything to you that cuts you into your soul, and you know what these words are, and no, it don't even have to be degrading. If you love someone, anything negative and hurtful that they say, it cuts. And you know what the limits are. This is not to say, oh, well, it's just no, 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 no. You know exactly what I'm talking about if you found yourself in this situation. I know most of us have overheard, or been a witness to this as well. So this is where I ask you to use, one, your common sense and your best judgment. Listen to that small voice on the inside. That small voice on the inside of me, the first interaction with my second husband where he got volatile with me, I got to go. I got to go. And this is where knowing who you are and whose you are becomes very important. Because when you're comfortable and confident in who you are and who God called you to be, whatever that may be and what path you're on, then you know you're far worthy. You're worthy. You're far more worthy than putting yourself in that situation. And because I knew that, granted, it took me some time. It was always there because I had already established and set certain things like, listen, this has happened. This cannot happen. And I had already set the expectation. And like I said, that last time he violated to a point of no return. You can't attempt to take my life and think I can bounce back from that. It ain't no amount of love, good feeling, none of that. Can't nothing ever take that back. I still feel to this day that feeling I had when I realized you're just not going to let go. When I'm fighting for my last breath, trying to pry his hands from around my neck. The reality of the fact was he was trying to take my last breath. And when I realized that, that's when I realized, Lord, I know this is not what you want for me. And if I can make it up out of here today, I swear to you, I'll never put myself in a situation like that again. And trust and believe, anybody that I am in contact with now, no matter what level it's on, professionally, personally, or otherwise, even my family, they know I have a zero tolerance policy right now. And I ain't going to say it right now because I know that's going to stick with me for the rest of my life. Because that moment in time is going to stick with me for the rest of my life. I still wear the scars and will wear them for the rest of my life. So that being said, don't let nobody tell you you're wrong from walking away from a situation that's putting you and your safety at risk. Don't you be the one to tell you that you're wrong from walking away from a situation to put you at your rest. Don't you look at your babies and say this is what they need. They don't need that. They don't need two parents that can't love on and take care of and show compassion towards each other. They don't need a father that wants to beat on their mother. They don't need a mother who don't know what to say to their father. They don't need to witness any of that, because all of that, again, remember, they're sponges. All of that you soak up and you carry that with you throughout your life. If it were not for the grace of God, I would still be damaged and hurt and vengeful and nasty and mean. There was a period in time in my life where people would tell me, you look so unapproachable. And I'm like, me unapproachable? Because to know me is to love me. I like everybody, and to a fault will try to fit in with everybody. But what it was, I was carrying a lot of baggage, a lot of hurt, a lot of pain, a lot of unaddressed abuse from even my childhood that I had not begun to address, deal with, and heal from. And you could see it on my face. You could see it on my face. I walked around looking like I could kill you if you spoke to me. And I didn't realize that until someone brought it to my attention. And from that point on, I asked myself, how do I want people to see me? How do you want people to see you? Do you want them to see you as wounded, broken, and abused? Or do you want them to see that healing? Because healing is a process, y'all. Healing is a process. And if I may be transparent, not getting too far off track, I've had a rough few days where certain things will trigger those old feelings and take me to a place where now I'm just not comfortable in, I don't feel safe in my reality. And it's because something has happened or something was said or, that took me back to that place of unsureness because I wasn't sure about who I was. So that means I was more likely to go with the flow and be a party to things that meant me no good, family included. I watched my first blood family stand in front of my face and talk about me as if, no, we're not doing that. Those are things that, you have to heal from, so the face that you present to the outside world is really the one that you want them to see. And I always want people to see me as the loving, happy, compassionate person that I am. So from that moment on, I always, whenever you make eye contact with me, 8 out of 10 times it's going to be with a smile on my face. 8 out of 10 times it's going to be with a smile on my face, because that's what I want you to see me as. I want you to be able to come to me. I want you to talk to me. Granted, people will most certainly know, and people do certainly know, I'm just never going to be the person that you can just say anything any kind of way to, in no kind of setting. No kind of setting. It's just not going to happen. I wasn't born or built that way, and God told me no. He created me with a voice so that it could be heard, and I will use it. I will use it. That being said, I'm a firm believer, and there's a time and a place for everything. So you're going to get a different Sharon depending on the setting that we're in. And no matter what that setting is, if we're going back to the domestic violence piece, make sure that if you're in a volatile setting or situation, make sure the person that person gets is one of zero tolerance. Make sure you're making every effort to remove yourself from that situation. And if you don't know where to begin in that process, please, by all means, reach out to me. Sharon is Coach LLC on Facebook. You can send me a message here on Sharon is Coach. If it don't apply, let it fly. YouTube, just know there's a way out of that. And don't take for granted that men aren't experiencing domestic violence, because they are. And it doesn't make them weak. In fact, I feel like it makes them more of a man not to lash out and fight back. Okay? I think it takes more of a man to keep his hands to himself in a situation where the other party is an aggressor to him. Okay, never will I ever say or promote a man putting his hands on a woman. That's just not who I am. And I got 3 brothers. That's just not who I am. But I will say, in a situation where someone is attacking you, you have every right to defend or diffuse. I don't even want to say defend, because a man really don't have too much to defend himself from for a woman. You can diffuse the situation, and if you have to, I know plenty of guys that just run. So, if you have to, just run, walk, leave, vacate. If you are the aggressor and you feel like you can't handle the situation, or you're escalating to a point where you want to lay hands on somebody, leave, get some air. Adios, amigos. Don't stand for that. Don't expose yourself to the consequences of lashing out and being aggressive and putting your hands on somebody, because it ain't worth it. It's not worth it. Those consequences follow you the rest of your life. If it's a domestic violence situation and it goes to court, that's a violent offense. Depending upon how egregious it is, it stays on your record. It will follow you. It's going to make it hard for you to get a job, because don't nobody want to take a chance on you kirking out again and doing something to somebody else. So these are the things to think about when you're in that situation as the aggressor. If you're on the receiving end of their aggression, know that you're worthy. Know that you're the most beautiful being that God has ever created. And He created you perfectly as you are. You don't need to be anything other than what you are and what you want to be. If who you are isn't enough for them to love you wholeheartedly and truly want to protect you from all hurt, harm, and danger, then that's not who you need to be with. They don't deserve you, and you dang sure don't deserve them in that capacity. You don't. And hear me when I say, ladies, I don't care what your situation is. I don't care how many kids you got. I don't care what you've been through in your background. I don't care how traumatized you is. I don't care how violated you once was. Somebody out there will love you wholly. Somebody out there will make it their business to bring you nothing but joy. And I'm speaking from truth. And it doesn't even have to be that you're going out here looking for it. Focus on you. God's grace and mercy will always find you wherever you are. So focus on you. Get out that situation. Start your healing process. Eliminate all that dead weight and that luggage. Family and friends too. Because I tell you, my family would have been the death of me. My family would have been the death of me. Simply because I was looking to them to help fix me and repair me. When 1, it wasn't their job. 2, they didn't know how to. And 3, that's just not who they were. They are selfish. And I'm not saying it to be malicious, as they were about themselves and their family, as most people are, and that's to be expected. You can't expect that everybody is going to drop everything and run to your rescue just because it's you. I did, sadly, and was sadly mistaken. But just know that at the end of the day, no matter how scary that alone time or that transition time when you're leaving a situation may be, it's worth it. It's worth it. Yes, I cried myself through a lot of nights. Yes, I contemplated taking my life because I couldn't deal with what I was feeling. But God kept me here for a reason. Part of that reason is to share my journey with you. Because today, while I may have had a couple of bad days, thank you, Jesus, for my accountability partner who listened and talked me through it. I thank them for that. I really do. But your good days will outweigh your bad. Because although I may have had a couple of bad days because of a triggering event, I've had 3, 4, 5 weeks of nothing but pure joy. You see what I'm saying? So you're still going to have the moments. And that's why I say healing is a process. I still have a challenge with talking through some things. Some things still evoke a level of emotion in me that scares me. Even if it don't scare nobody else, it scares me. So it's something that you truly do have to take your time with. But what's going to be key to your healing is surrounding yourself with the right types of people. The people that are going to pour into you and not try to extract from you. The people that are going to tell you, I know this is a process. I'm here for it all. You have to be patient with you. The right kind of person, the right people in your life when you're healing, they're going to be patient with you. They're going to expect and understand that you're going to have an off day. They're going to expect and understand that maybe you might snap out every now and again. And I ain't talking about being reckless or anything like that, but you just might not be feeling like yourself. And that's okay. I'm grateful and thankful that I am now at a place in my healing process where when I am feeling off, I'm verbalizing it because I don't want to ever revisit that dark place ever again where I don't see worth and value in myself. And that's what domestic violence and family abuse can do to you. It can make you feel very unworthy. It can make you feel unloved. It can make you feel devalued because we look to certain people in our lives to embrace us, to hold us, to soothe us, to be a band-aid. We do that. And when those people, for whatever their reasons are, we're not throwing stones or sending no shade nowhere, whatever their reasoning is for not being available to you in that capacity, just know that God did equip you with what you need on your own. And sometimes he will put you in a place of where? Peace. Meaning what? Quiet. And what? Aloneness. So that you can do what? Hear who? Him and you. That's all that matters. Him and you. Because for everything I said I wanted for myself, I had so many people tell me I was asking for a fairy tale. Why is asking for a mate or wanting a family or wanting a career or wanting to start a nonprofit organization, why is any of that considered to be out of my league? Why would anybody that claims to love me think I'm dreaming too big? If I say I want that house way out there in Short Pump, for anybody that don't know, Short Pump is considered the upper echelon of the city or county, it might be for somebody that can't afford it. But if that's what my heart is set on and I'm willing to put in the work to make sure I achieve that as one of my goals, then it's mine to have. That's going to take me over my time, but I'm going to make sure I put this here because I've been dancing around this topic. I couldn't find the words, but again, the baby triggered me today, so I'm on a roll today. Stop letting people define your elevation and the heights in which you'll reach for you. Don't share your stuff with somebody and let them tell you what it is or what it ain't. Don't do that. And if you find like you're surrounded by people that's going to always try to fault in what you want and what you're dreaming and hoping for, then those aren't the right kind of people. And it's not necessarily a bad thing. What I've come to learn in my own personal experience is people that are willingly speaking against someone else's hopes and dreams and aspirations, it's typically because they're dealing with their own dark demons, and their demons won't let them see past where they are right now. So in closing, whenever you find yourself distracted by or triggered by something that's going on around you that's taking you back to that dark place, that's being a distraction, that's hindering you from moving forward, one of the most valuable things I've learned, and I'm an Aries, I'm type A. I overthink. There's not much that you're going to get past me because I probably already thought about it 2-3 months ago. As soon as I meet you, my wheels is turning. But I'm saying that to say this. One of my coping techniques is when I feel overwhelmed or I feel like I'm going down that rabbit hole where it's taking me away from enjoying the moment that I'm in. That's what I do. I focus on the moment that I'm in. I block out yesterday and I block out tomorrow. Right now, in this moment, it feels good. It's great. Lord, if it's not meant for me and if it's not of you, and I said it backwards, if it's not of you and meant for me, please remove it.